Yes, sir, in the back.
A topic that's dear and near to my heart is ag land preservation, and akin to that, constraining urban sprawl.
Right.
And I just would like you. I would just ask you if you become president, that you would put that as one of your agricultural priorities, because we need possibly some dollars so development rights can be purchased to maintain this, because 50 years from now, if we keep going the way we are, we're going to have a worse food problem than we have now.
We will have paved over this incredible gift, some of the richest land in the world. That's absolutely right. And there are a lot of states and a lot of communities that have started setting up, they're essentially trust funds to buy up and preserve farmland. And that is something to be encouraged. But the biggest thing that we can do to prevent all this farmland from being gobbled up is to think about our development patterns. We are still building as if gas is $1 a gallon, and part of the answer to our energy crisis is actually thinking about how we develop our cities so that we don't just have people 2-3 hours away from where they're working, and we think about how do we encourage cities to infill, right? Develop, within older areas that are being abandoned, and carve out space outside of those cities to make sure that they're preserved for farmland and forests and conservation. That actually makes for a better quality of life. People, I don't know who enjoys 2-hour commutes. It also is one of the ways that we're going to have to deal with our energy problems, because if everybody's driving 2 hours to get to their work, that's using up an awful lot of energy, and it makes it harder to use mass transit. It makes it harder for us to use rail lines and other very efficient ways of transportation because everybody's too spread out. So what I want to do is provide states incentives through, for example, the Federal Highway Trust Fund to make sure that these kinds of considerations are part of how you evaluate whether or not a state's got a good plan and how much money it gets. Because nothing gets people to pay attention more than money, right? Yeah. Okay. Yes, sir.
Back to the trade thing. A lot of our agriculture inputs, not just our fuel, but a lot of the fertilizer and stuff is coming in from other countries because the companies have found that there's less regulation and production is more efficient and so forth. So as president, what do you see that we could do to eliminate some of that? Because what's happening, our dollar is weak. We're actually paying through the nose for inputs and stuff coming in. The second question, and if you can't answer both, just answer this one. I've been reading on the internet that you believe as an American we should not have to pledge allegiance to the flag. Is that true? And if so, why? Okay.
That is a bogus, that is completely bogus. These emails have been sent around. Each state, depending on what state I'm about to go into, suddenly you start seeing all these emails. It's a smear campaign that they've been running since the beginning of the campaign. No, I lead the Pledge of Allegiance when I'm presiding in the Senate, so you can catch it on videotape. And I've been saying the pledge since I was 3 years old. So don't believe that stuff. Now, if you ever get these letters from Nigeria saying that they've got a lot of money for you, I also don't send that. Don't give them your bank account number. All right, I want to make sure. And now in terms of trade, I think that it is very important for us to maintain trade, and it's important for our rural states, our farm economy, to maintain and open up trade. So I am a pro-trade guy. But I want to make sure that our trade relationships are set up not just with Wall Street in mind, but also Main Street. And the problem with a lot of our trade relationships is that they're not reciprocal. I mean, look at China. Now, they've devalued their currency to make their exports cheaper and our exports more expensive. They steal our intellectual property. Somebody told me, you go to China, there's a store, looks like Starbucks coffee. Everything's exactly the same, except it's not owned by Starbucks. They just decided, I don't know, this looks like a good idea. Let's start something up. I was talking to a manufacturer in Indianapolis who makes precision metal parts out of tungsten, a lot of defense contracts. And he was saying one of the problems is our competitive advantage here is how we design these processes and these tools. And we're constantly trying to get some patent protection in places like China because we can compete with them in terms of having better ideas, but we can't compete with them in terms of wages. And if they can just steal our processes and our ideas, then we're going to lose out. So that's the kind of hard-headed negotiations that we've got to have from our president. If they are not opening up their markets, if they are not respecting the rules of the road, we've got to seek enforcement. And in the first term of George Bush's presidency, he never brought China before the WTO, before the World Trade Organization. He just didn't do it. And so what happened was they pretty much could do whatever it is that they wanted without fear of any kind of sanctions. Now, I will have a very different attitude. My attitude is we want to trade with China. We want to trade with countries all around the world. But if they are taking advantage of us, then we will shut our markets down. It's pretty simple. If Korea is shipping all these cars into the United States and we get about 7,000 or 8,000 cars into Korea, that tells me that they're not letting their markets open. The same is true with agricultural products, beef. I mean, you try to get beef into Japan, that's been a long time fight. Even though obviously we're far more efficient, and that's a potential export source. But we just haven't had a president who's fighting enough for people here in the United States, and that's what I intend to do.